What's up, everybody? Ice Res here. Thanks for tuning in. Just a little recap on UFC 225 and then Season 2 of Dana White's Contender Series, plus some other random news in the MMA industry. Get started with UFC 225 recap. We got Whitaker defeating Yoel Romero via split decision. Some people think Yoel won, some people think Whitaker won. At the end of the day, Whitaker missed weight, so regardless, even if he was to win, he wouldn't have won the belt. And he also missed weight back-to-back in two different belt fights. I mean, in order to become the UFC champ, he's missed twice. So we gotta scrap him. He's either got to move up to 205, or he just can't be the main draw of a show. He can't be the main event anymore. But yeah, Whitaker won that via split decision. Kobe Covington beat RDA via unanimous decision. Punched and took RDA down at will, and it was a good fight. It was fun to watch. Holm defeated Anderson via unanimous decision. Tai Tuivasa defeated Andre Arlovski via unanimous decision. Mike Jackson beat CM Punk via unanimous decision. Blades defeated Overeem via third round TKO due to a knee at 2:56 in the round. Claudia Gadelha defeated Carla Esparza via split decision, and Esparza had some stuff to say about that after the fight, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Mirsad Bektik defeated Ricardo Lamas via split decision. Sergio Pettis defeated Joseph Benavidez via split decision. Anthony Smith defeated Rashad Evans via knockout due to a knee. Round 1, 53 seconds into the round. Charles Oliveira defeated Clay Guida, the hometown boy, via guillotine choke, round 1, 2:18 mark. Chris De La Rocha defeated Rashad Coulter, round 2, 3:53 via TKO. Dan Ige defeated Mike Santiago, round 1, 50 seconds in TKO. So a lot of things have been said back and forth about this UFC 225. Apparently wasn't a very big draw, nor was it anything that really should have been. I mean, I was excited about it just because I'm a fan and because I know a lot of the fighters on this, and the fact that I guess CM Punk was fighting again for the second time. And I kind of just got caught up in what could have been for me. Once Yoel Romero missed weight and all that drama went down, I didn't buy the fight. I pretty much caught myself up and watched it via reruns. So I don't know. I wouldn't have bought it regardless. I honestly wouldn't have. It was a good card. It really was. It was a good card, but with all of the bullshit that went back and forth with Yoel Romero and the shuffling of the card to put CM Punk on the main card just because they thought he was going to get buys, and putting Blades and Overeem on the undercard, even putting Rashad Evans and Anthony Smith on the undercard. I think it could have been handled a lot better, and here we are. Apparently, it didn't do very well, and that's because at the end of the day, it wasn't. I guess I don't even know how to explain it. it wasn't a very good card. The outlay of it and the build up of it, the UFC does such a good job at building fights up, given the background through embedded, uh, actually seeing the fighters work out in the gym, getting a little behind the scenes, talking back and forth, giving their ideas and all that fun stuff. At the end of the day, I just don't think especially after the whole Romero fiasco, it just didn't have the gas. I think it would have done a lot better if he would have actually made weight finally and sold the fight like it was supposed to be. Then I think it would have been a lot better. But neither here nor there. Whitaker ended up winning via split decision, and then Kobe Covington. I mean, the guy talks the talk, he walks the walk. Everybody said, he was going to get smashed by Maia. He ended up getting, a little beat up in the first round, then coming out and whooping ass, winning unanimous decision. Then he gets the call to fight RDA and go for the interim belt, and talks, a whole lot of junk. And, a lot of people don't like the way that he talks and the way that he carries himself, and to each their own. Honestly, it bothers me sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, the guy he's doing him. Before this fight, besides the Maia fight, he really never fought anybody in the top 10, definitely not in the top 5. So he talked himself into an interim belt, and he absolutely whooped up on RDA. RDA was supposed to be the second coming of Christ, pretty much. Everybody was like, oh man, the way he beat Robbie Lawler, it's just amazing to see him at such a healthy weight now, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then Covington comes out wrestles him, out punches him, or strikes rather, out strikes him, out talks him. He got in his head, and at the end of the day, Covington did everything that he said he was going to do. He beat him on the feet, he beat him on the ground, beat him in the clinch. He literally beat him everywhere. His cardio was out of this world. He was all over him. He literally ran to the center of the octagon every single time the bell rang. And, I can't really take anything away from him. Let's see, Jackson versus CM Punk. That was rough to watch. I think CM Punk should either retire or, go to, I don't know. I don't even know if anybody else would have him, but, go to Bellator or one of those other kind of underling companies that is like a build-up. Get some fights underneath his belt, see if he's actually, the way that he was fighting, it didn't look like he was worth anything, but he's a hard worker, man. He never gave up. He has tons of heart, and I'd love to watch him fight again, but definitely not in the UFC, and definitely not on a main card. Curtis Blades and Overeem, that was a great fight. Blades surprises me every single time he comes out, man. Every time I think he's going to wrestle, he strikes. Every time I think he's going to strike, he wrestles. He's an animal, and he's just adding to his arsenal every single time he comes out. He did hurt himself, though. He rolled his ankle, or he sprained his ankle and sprained his knee in that fight, so he's going to be out for a little bit. But Claudia Gadelha versus Carla Esparza, split decision there. I guess Esparza afterwards said she never calls anybody out unless she's 100% certain, but she said that Claudia Gadelha was greasing, and Covington actually said this about RDA as well, that they were greasing. And for those people that don't know what greasing is pretty much oiling yourself up, so you're slippery. People can't put in submissions or take you down properly. You just pretty much slide off. And Claudia Gadelha just said, it's just her trying to come up with excuses. And Esparza's comment back to that was, well, then let's do a rematch. But I mean, if people could get a rematch every time they were upset about a loss or a win, unless it was fully controversial, I think it's kind of ridiculous. Claudia Gadelha has been up there for the belt pretty much the last 3 years. Esparza lost the belt, and then I think she's lost 1 or 2 other fights since then, and it's kind of put her back. And then Gadelha lost her last fight, I guess, against Andrade, which is a beast. But I think Claudia just put herself back in the mix, and we'll see what goes from there. Sergio Pettis versus Joseph Benavidez. That was a fun fight, man. They both dropped each other, whether it was a stumble or an actual catch, but it was a good fight. Good to see Joseph Benavidez back in working order. I mean, being number 1 contender for so long, and then his only loss is to Sergio Pettis now and champ. I think he has 3 losses, and that's 2 to the champ, and then 1 to Sergio Pettis now. So I mean, he's always going to be number 2, number 3 contender, right up there with the champ Mighty Mouse and what's his name? Oh man, it's gonna bother me. Neither here nor there. Regardless of that, Anthony Smith defeats Rashad Evans, 53 seconds in the first round via knee KO. Coming into this fight, Rashad said that he got caught up in the hype and what he was always supposed to be, and he was a champ, and he was being handed cars, and he was just getting everything and anything that he ever wanted. So he kind of got caught up in everything, and he had to get over himself. And coming into this fight, he said he was ready and he felt good. But up and coming contender, someone that's almost I think it's 9 years younger than him. He got caught, man. I think he's on a 4-fight losing streak or 5-fight losing streak. I don't think he should retire. I mean, it's Rashad Evans. He's been around forever. I think it was the second Ultimate Fighter. He was the winner at heavyweight against Brad Imes or something like that. But I mean, he won the belt. He's on a skid, and it sucks, and I don't want to see him go out this way. I think if he gets himself back, goes back down to 185, and kind of revamps himself maybe a little bit, it'd be fun to watch him kind of make the trek back. But you win some, you lose some. I hate to see him go out this way, but here we are. Clay Guida lost to Charles Oliveira. It was a late replacement. Clay Guida's always, game. He doesn't care who he's fighting. But he lost round 1 via guillotine choke, which, being a wrestler, you always kind of have to worry about that because you always leave your neck out there. So he got caught, man. 2:18 in the first round. Chris De La Rocha versus Rashad Coulter, round 2, 3:53. TKO. Chris De La Rocha won. And then Dan Ige defeats Mike Santiago 50 seconds into the first round via TKO. A couple things have been kind of going on. Let's see. Brad Pickett ends his retirement 18 months after retiring from the UFC and signs with the ACB, which is a underling company, kind of like the CFL to the NFL. And actually probably underneath the CFL is probably like more of like an arena football league compared to the NFL. But he was on a downward slump, but now he's going to be fighting up and comers outside of the UFC. So we'll see where it goes. But maybe he needs money. Maybe he just still has that fire in his belly. I don't know. But coming from the UFC to the ACB, I don't know. It's kind of like learning your ABCs all over again. But let's see, the flyweight women's champ, Nico Montano, said that she's ready for number one contender Valentina Shevchenko on September 8th, which is in Vegas, UFC 228. I guess she's been dealing with a couple injuries, and Shevchenko's been talking shit about her, telling her that she can easily fight, but she's just hiding from her, and she's sick and tired of it. So let's go, and I guess maybe we'll actually get to see that fight. Valentina Shevchenko is a beast, so I don't know. I think I would hide too for a little bit. Montano won the belt off the TV show The Ultimate Fighter, and she beat I forget the girl's name, but she's not the caliber of. I mean, she was on The Ultimate Fighter before, and she's not really of the caliber of the women's UFC champs. So if she would have won, that would have been really weird to see, just because I know how crazy this flyweight division is going to be, and Nico better buckle up, because it's going to be a crazy ride. Excuse me. Gustafsson had talked about bringing Luke Rockhold into the light heavyweight division and wanting to knock him out and whoop his ass. And Rockhold's out with a really bad shin injury. Something happened, I don't know the whole story, but apparently he had surgery, and the surgery didn't take properly, so now he has to have surgery all over again, and he'll be out for another 3 months, I believe it was. But Gustafsson jumped back onto social media and said that he'll gladly welcome Yoel Romero to the light heavyweight division, which is honestly where I think Yoel Romero should be. After the last two debacles for a belt and not making weight for either one of them, it's shitty to see. And yeah, man, it sucks. Honestly, I don't even think he deserved the fight with Robert Whittaker. Mackenzie Dern won her fight and was placed, I think, like 7th in her weight class, and after her win, and they took her out of the top 10 altogether because she didn't make weight. And then Yoel Romero turns around, misses weight, isn't even able to fight for the belt, or win the belt rather, because he didn't make weight, and knocks out Luke Rockhold, which, great, he knocked out Luke Rockhold, but at the same time he didn't make weight. So how can you reward someone for not doing their job? It's showing up and doing a half-assed job, but getting paid more than you should. I wish I could show up to work every day and just be like, hey, I tried, and then they just reward me with a raise. But, I don't run the UFC, and I have nothing to say. This is just my opinion. And then the same thing with Darren Till. Darren Till fights Wonderboy, Stephen Thompson, and in my eyes loses in front of his home country, or his hometown in his country, and doesn't make weight, but for some reason is ranked number 1 in the weight class in the division, and Stephen Thompson moved down. Makes no sense to me whatsoever. That's like me being at middleweight, beating up a welterweight, and then being the number one contender, even though I was supposed to fight at 170. I don't know. The UFC does what they want to do, and it's all about promotion. So, yeah, the weigh-ins. The weigh-in debacle, man. People want it early, people want it late. At the end of the day, I think people are missing weight because they're not cutting weight properly. You cut weight and you cut extreme amounts of weight because you want to be able to pack those pounds back on and beat people that are smaller than you. That's literally what it is. If you're walking around at 180 and you're trying to lose, say you're trying to get to 155, you're walking around at 180 every day and you want to lose that, that extra, 30 pounds, 35 pounds, 25 pounds, whatever it is. You do it because you're the bigger, stronger guy usually. But now it's gotten to a point where Darren Till, perfect example, I was just talking about him, said that he walks around at 220. He's cutting all the way down to or trying to, when he is actually successful, all the way down to 170. 170 pounds from 220. I'm not a mathematician, but I'm pretty sure that's 50 pounds. You're literally losing, a quarter of your body weight. That's not healthy in any way, shape, or form, however you do it. I don't care who you are. That's a 3-year-old child attached to your hip that you're just trying to lose. And then at the end, it's just trying to lose water weight, which is horrible for your kidneys, horrible for your liver, horrible for your heart. Like, you're breaking your whole system down. At 50 pounds, that's absolutely, it's not incredible, it's incredibly bad. But I don't think the weigh-ins are going to change. Whether it's in the morning or the night, I honestly don't care. Either way, I'll watch the weigh-ins because I genuinely actually enjoy watching the weigh-ins. I like to see who comes in heavy, who doesn't. That's why right now I watch the early weigh-ins and then I watch the weigh-ins. I don't know why they ever changed it. I think it was something about it's supposed to be healthier for the fighters. So once you get to a point, you're supposed to be within, I think, 8% of your actual weight by a certain time, and that's supposed to help your system replenish itself and not break down so badly. But, man, to each their own. Dana White and the UFC is going to do what they want to do. But, yeah, Conor McGregor was just in court, and he was talking about a plea deal, and they had made push his court date back to now July 26th, I believe it is. And I don't know, we'll see what goes on there. Greg Hardy, he was just on the Contender, Dana White Contender Series. Ex-NFL player was fighting another ex-NFL player, and knocked him out 57 seconds in the first round. Lane knocked out Lane in the first round, 57 seconds. And I guess because of Greg Hardy's tainted past with, and I say this with open ears, because I don't know the exact whole story, but I do know that he was never convicted of the abuse towards the woman or his wife or his girlfriend or whoever it was. All charges were dropped, and he moved on. Apparently he had a drug and alcohol problem. He has moved on since then, and The guy's trying to do, what he can. I guess Jessica Rose Clark, who's in the UFC, she's 2-0 actually in the UFC. She has a fight coming up against, I believe it's Jessica I. She's not okay with this. She does not support this second. I guess it would be because his first was in the NFL and now coming into another professional sport, being MMA. She's not okay with this second chance. She thinks it's bad for the sport and that it would eventually give a black eye to the sport. But Derek Lewis actually already jumped on and said, listen, man, I hate people that are like that, which people that hit women, which I do as well. I grew up in an all-women household, and I've literally beat the crap out of a gentleman because of hitting a woman in front of me. But Derek Lewis said straight out that he would love to, after his fight with Ngannou, he would love to welcome Greg Hardy to the UFC and show him that he's the woman and he's going to beat that ass. Because it sounds horrible the way that I said it. Derek Lewis didn't say that he wanted to beat him like a woman. I said it horribly that way. He said that he wants to beat him so bad that it seems like he's beating up on someone that's lesser than him. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, sorry. Anyway, Derek Lewis pretty much just wants to beat his ass, plain and simple. That's how I can explain it, I guess. And I would love to watch that. I think this Derek Lewis and Ngannou fight is going to be insane regardless, but two knockout artists going head to head. Greg Hardy, Dana White said Greg Hardy needs to go and get some fights underneath his belt, but he will be under the UFC banner regardless of where he fights. Kind of like women fight in the Invicta League before they come over to the UFC, and I don't really know if the UFC has kind of a league for men yet, but I'm sure they'll get one, or they'll make one up one day, or absorb another company. But that's kind of what I got for now, guys. Derek Lewis wants to kick the crap out of Greg Hardy. Jessica Rose Clark wants to watch it. Conor McGregor has a new court date, July 26th. Weigh-ins, whether they're day or night, I don't care. Flyweight women's champ Nico Montano is ready for Valentina Shevchenko, and I think that's a bad idea. I think she should continue to run. Brad Pickett is ending his retirement after 18 months and signing with the ACB after losing his last fight in the UFC. Gustafsson is ready to welcome Yoel Romero to the light heavyweight division, and Robert Whittaker retains his belt regardless because Romero couldn't make weight, and he lost anyway via split decision. Covington is now a champion of the UFC in the 170 division, and I'm excited to see the future, man. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great night. Later.